I'm calling this video advanced coin making tips and tricks. Granted, I've only been doing it for 2 weeks, but I feel like I've learned quite a bit in the last 2 weeks to be able to maybe help some folks out there get to the next level, possibly. And that's based, and frankly, that's based on the fact that I've watched a lot of beginner videos and videos that don't have this content. There are a few out there that seem like they did, but so again, I'm calling this advanced. But if, for you personally, if you're watching, you've been doing this a while, I'm sure it's not advanced, but hopefully you'll still be able to get something out of it. Yeah, right. So it's been a couple weeks since we started making our own. We've been utilizing different types, different materials, different countries, stuff like that. We've had really good success with Italian coins. Yeah, we've got one here from a 50. Came out really nice. We've got another one from a 50. This is a woman's ring. So from the same coin, you can see we made a matching set of rings. You can see it's reduced in both height and depth. Okay, but both came out very, very nice. This is from also an Italian coin. You can see dating back to 1959. So this is a pretty old coin. Came out really nice as well. Very happy with it. Okay, you can see I'm wearing a couple of rings. Okay, this is from a quarter, and this one here that I have on is from a, let's see, this is also an Italian 50-cent piece. Yeah, so the Italian 50-cent piece works really, really well. Yeah, so this ring here I made from a quarter. Okay, I decided to do the United States of America on the outside. This ring here came out pretty good, but it's got some thinner spots in the width of the band. Okay, it's a little wavy. That can be repaired. But this was one of my first rings. This was probably the third or fourth ring that I made, and now I know how to straighten it out. Okay, so this one will be straightened out and then resized. Okay, but so I'm going to show you some tips and tricks. Like this ring here came out really perfect. I've learned how to reduce this learned a good way, quick way, proficient way of reducing the material on the outside edge to make it, more aesthetically pleasing and more symmetrical. I'm gonna show you how to make this more symmetrical, and at a later date, I'm gonna actually do that with these coins as well, these rings as well. Okay, this one here I did make. You can see it made more symmetrical. Okay, so took this edge down. So in the past 2 weeks, I probably made about 30 rings, and I've learned a lot along the way. I've learned what works and what does not work. I've learned from mistakes and failures. You can see here is a 1937 silver quarter. Okay, that was a failure. You could see the split there. Okay, and silver is definitely in my opinion, harder to work with than copper, which is basically US quarters are 90% copper, or about 92% copper, about 8% nickel. Okay, so to me they seem to be easier. Not that you can't split these as well, you can, but silver seems to be a lot more delicate. Okay, so once we become proficient, I mean what I consider proficient, I'm going to start back up with silver. But this one split due to work hardening. I was stretching it too quickly, sizing it too quickly. Okay, you can see the splits on the edge here, and then this major split. I should have reheated it, I should have annealed it again along the way. All right, but that's a lesson learned. Okay, so this video is about pretty much about what I've learned in the last 2 weeks. Okay, so for today's project, we are going to utilize a 1967 1 penny, Elizabeth II. Okay, not a terribly rare coin at all. Okay, so what I like to do is first thing I like to do is with the coin is find the center. Okay, and I'll get as close to the center as possible. I've got a collection of a bunch of different washers, so I just find one that's a good match for the size, which this is. It's almost identical. Alright, so I've got a permanent black marker, and I'll just make a mark right in the center with that. Alright, so like I said, I've just got a bunch of washers here. Alright, so different size coins. That's pretty much the bulk of what I use as far as the sizes are concerned. So at this point, there's a couple different ways, or a bunch of different ways, but of punching the hole. Okay, in the beginning, for the first, let's say, 15 coins, I literally just use a step drill bit on my drill press and drill this out. Okay, which you can do, which is fine. It worked fine for me. Occasionally, I'd have an off-center situation, like this coin here is a little bit off-center, although you can repair that just by grinding out a little bit with either a Dremel tool or a round file. Okay, that's a pretty easy fix, so don't be too concerned if you miss. Okay, it's still repairable. But with an inexpensive coin like a quarter or something like this, it's not a big deal. But for coins that are a little bit more rare, you want to try to hit the mark the first try. Okay, as you can see, I have a punch set. Okay, so you can punch out holes. This is what I've moved up to. This works very good. It's not as good as like your self-centering types, but this does work rather well. I've used it about 10 times now, and I'm very happy with it. So basically, we want to center the coin in the hole. Okay, so now that you've got that centered in there, hopefully you can see that. You could then put the punch in there. Okay, so now at this point, you could utilize a mallet and strike the punch several times to punch that out, or you can insert this in a vise or an arbor press. I happen to prefer utilizing my hydraulic press. Okay, for me it's just easier, and I just like using this press. Alright, so let's go ahead and bring that down. That's it. Alright, so let's release that. Let's just pan back. I'll show you my press is called the crusher. Okay, so at this point you need to push this all the way through. Okay, so I built this block specifically designed for this task. Alright, so it's just, I built it out of 3 pieces of 1x6. Alright, and put a little leather on the bottom here just so it'll slide around nice. Okay, and yeah, actually you can see an old piece in here. Okay, and then there's a hole, there's a couple of them in there. There's a hole drilled, okay, deep enough so I can press this punch through. That's it. There you go. Okay, so now we've got the coin punched. Okay, right in the center. We want to take our deburring tool and we want to deburr that edge. If you are going to start doing your own coins, okay, your own coin rings, you want to get a deburring tool like this one. This was like $7 or $8. It's worth its weight in gold. Trust me, okay? AFA Tools is a quality tool too. This is aluminum, knurled. It comes with like 7 or 8 replacement blades, tips, and you know, it's the best way to go. Initially, I was utilizing. I mean, it's just you can see the shavings. I mean, it's amazing. It just smooths that, deburrs that edge. And deburring is very important. I found out myself the hard way. If you don't deburr properly, you're more than likely, when you're stretching the coin, you're more than likely to end up with a split. Okay, so you want to make sure you deburred. Initially, before I bought this deburring tool, which I've only had it for like the last, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8, maybe 10 rings, I was using a Dremel tool with a stone tip, and I would deburr it, okay, which worked fine, okay, but it's you know, it's more time consuming. You know, you also have the possibility of slipping with this, and then you end up, you know, grinding or marring the surface. Okay, so you can still use this after you deburr, you know, just to hit it a little bit on the inside, but it's, I would say, not necessary. It will make it just a little bit nicer, but not something I would say is required. Okay, so now that you have your coin punched, you're going to want to anneal it. Annealing process, what it does is it disturbs the molecular makeup of the coin, okay, of the metal, I should say. It 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 basically, your metal is like fibers of a cloth, okay, and when they are tight and all going in the same direction, they're strong, okay. What annealing does is it scrambles the fibers and makes it weak, okay. So when it's weak, it becomes malleable, and it's easy to work it, okay. So you know, when you're making your coin, you may have to, depending on how much work goes into the coin, you may have to anneal it multiple times, and I've found that it's always safer to anneal more than less. Okay, you can see that coin. That I would say my average coin, I probably anneal 3 or 4 times. Okay, it depends. again, how much work goes into it. If you're correcting for some bends, or correcting for size, if you're sizing up, then size in, then you find you need to size back down. A lot of work is going into that. And what happens is, as you're working the coin or the metal, something occurs called work hardening. Okay, the metal becomes brittle or hard. You're probably familiar with, um, situations where you've bent a piece of metal back and forth many times. The object or the metal becomes hot, and then it eventually does snap. Okay, that's an example of work hardening. Okay, so when you if the object becomes work hardened, by annealing it, you release that work hardening, and you're starting fresh again. All right, so let's go ahead and anneal that. So what you want to do is you want to heat this until you get a nice orange color out of it. Okay, you want the entire coin to get a nice glow of orange, and you want to have an orange flame coming off the coin. Okay, and then you immediately submerge that into cool water. Okay, I'm going to take that out of the cool water. And you can see that coin looks different now. Okay, so from here, I'm going to take my dapping block. Pick the right size. There you go. And first thing we need to do, though, before we do that, is decide which side we want out. Okay. All right. So depending on what you want displayed, this is very important. So we want the date 1967 and the 1 penny on the outside. Okay. And the Elizabeth II on the inside. Okay. So we will, whatever you want on the inside, you want that facing up in the dapping block. Okay, and we'll just take a dapping block punch. That's it. Okay, so you can see we have that domed. Okay, so from there we're going to move over to our sizing press. Okay, and we are going to stretch that. Okay, we're looking good right now. We have no splits. Before we go any further, we've already stretched that somewhat. We're going to anneal it again. Okay, so we've annealed that for the second time. Just dry that off. Okay, and now we are going to continue to stretch this ring. Okay, so using the ring mandrel and a nylon hammer, we're just going to work this around. All right, so we kept working that around the mandrel, okay, and brought that down quite a bit. Because we did work it quite a bit, we want to anneal it again, just so we don't take any chances on a split. Looks good right now. Looks really perfect. I got no splits on the edges, which is really important. All right, so let's do that. Okay, so we've got our ring in our dapping block at our arbor press, and we are going to size this down a little bit and at the same time curve the edge. Okay, so we're going to turn this around and do the same thing with the other side. See, what else that does is it also gives the ring like that fat tire look. Okay, you can see that that's curved now on the top instead of it being flat. Okay, as you can see, we've got a nice fat tire ring. Okay, fat tire shape ring here. You can see that's a nice curve in that, which is really what I like. That's one of the things that I learned recently. You know, a way to accomplish that is with a dapping block. You need to have a dapping block for this, okay, to get that effect. And of course, an arbor press or a hydraulic press, something like that. I mean, you can use a hammer as well, maybe with a socket. You know, maybe get a socket, maybe put the ring in there. You know, find the right size, and maybe with a hammer or a mallet, you know, to drive that down. But it's a lot more difficult. And if you have an arbor press. Piece of sandpaper here, and we're just going to rotate that to take that edge off. Keep in mind I got this angle, so I'm just hitting the edge here, you can see. Okay, so don't go straight like this or I'll just sand the coin. You just want to get the edge. There you go, nice and smooth. So that's my trick on that. Okay, so what we're doing now is we've just got some 800 and we're just sanding the edge just to make it nice and smooth. The edge is beautiful. You can see this is a fat ring, okay, meaning it's got a curve, okay, as opposed to flat. I'll show you an example of a flat ring. Okay, so that's a flat coin ring. Okay, and this still, like I said before, previously, I need to take this edge down. It was one of my first ones, I think my third ring. You can see we're getting better at this. Okay, so we've got a fat ring as opposed to flat. And yeah, no edge. Edge has been taken off. Yeah, big difference. Nice and smooth on the inside. So at this point, we're just going to polish it out. Got some great features on it. 1 penny. It's got a little bit of the helmet. It's got the helmet of the warrior, the trident, penny, and the date, 1967. Shows up really well. And on the inside, we've got some great detail as well. Just gonna see if I can zoom in a little bit more on this. Let's give you more of the detail. Before